smart contract, proof of stake. As mentioned before, cryptocurrency makers wanted to do a better job of making less of impact on computer power, so now there's something called proof of stake. The way this process works is that instead of creating a difficult problem for people to solve, rewards are handed out at random people on the network based on the stake they have in the network. The reason why the switch took place is that it is far less prone to a takeover and less resources are used to maintain the network. Essentially, all you have to order in to make Ether in Ethereum is Ether itself. The more of it you have, the more likely you are to make money off of it. Bitcoin had to take over with mining farms, which could hoard all of the earning because a single computer couldn't compete with something like that. As a result, the cryptocurrency has an active market where everyone tries to get a bigger stake in the network. Additionally, if you try to tamper with the network or the transaction, then you risk having all of your Ether taken away from you or the reward. This was automatically decided by the blockchain when it detected tampering. It's still a blockchain, sort of. It's important to understand that a smart contract is still a coin. It's just that the coin has the contractual state inside of it. Smart contracts are rather interesting because it is a saved code state listener. To understand what a code state listener is, you have to understand the difference between parallel and linear processing. In computing, everything happens in a linear processing pattern, which means everything goes from point A to point B. Having said that, parallel processing is where linear processing happens at the same time. So while you go from point A to point B, someone else goes from point C to point D. Now, a code state listener is when a third person is waiting on both of you to arrive at the same time in order to begin. This is how parallel computation is done. In a smart contract, there's a bit of code that waits for conditions to be met before running a completion or at the end of program code block. Therefore, a smart contract waits until you do what you need to do before it begins running. The way the blockchain works in this system is that it is the one that enforces the contract is followed. Therefore, someone creates a smart contract. That smart contract listens for your conditions to be met. And when those conditions are met, the blockchain executes the smart contract. Smart contracts are not applicable to everything. Conditions are binary. One of the problems with a smart contract is that it needs to be an either-or choice. It cannot be multi-conditional. For instance, let's say that you have the option to rent a car or buy a car. If you rent the car, the smart contract has been fulfilled according to the blockchain and no more will be demanded. Essentially, they will have to have a new smart contract for months on end until the company sees it as paid. Smart contracts cannot have recurring events, which means something like renting requires new contracts with new signatures. Conditions have to be binary. Conditions also have to be quantifiable in a did or did not manner, which means partial pay is not an option. Let's say that a consumer wants to pay for a specific service, and that service is tied to a smart contract. The service may cost 300 ETHs, and thus, unless 300 ETH is paid to a specific account, the contract is still live. However, the consumer offers to pay for a product that your team needs, like a new editing software, and wants to compensate the cost by modifying the contract. This cannot be done, and there are ways around it. It still represents a limitation of smart contracts. Listener overload. This has not happened yet, and I'm surprised that no one has figured out. But there's a potential for a listener overload. Each time a smart contract is made, it has to listen, and that means code is running in the background to make this possible. Thus, you can recursively open listeners with small contract loads, and you would need a ton of ETH, but it is a vulnerability of the system. What I think would happen is that the entire system will become incredibly slow to the point where some might find it usable. Beyond these things, smart contracts are applicable to a lot of situations, and that makes them incredibly useful.